Good morning, watch nerds. Well, I've decided to freshen things up a little bit now. You may have noticed there's a new graphic at the start and there's also some new intro music, so let me know what you think. This is the new updated version of the watch, so I'll get to the differences as I go along. However, Kronos haven't marketed it as a version 2, so if you do decide to buy one, be careful which version you actually buy. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is only the second video on YouTube of this particular model. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Kronos Skyline. Now I've watched another review of this watch and the reviewer in question indicated it was a direct homage. But believe me, it isn't. I would describe it as a love child between two other well-known watches with integrated bracelets, but it certainly isn't the same as either of them. Now, I've owned a few Kronos watches in the past, but nothing for a few years now. What I do remember though is the quality is pretty much the same as San Martin, and as you'll see later, the value for money is completely off the scale. So this is the packaging. It's a handy little case, and although hardly luxury, it does the job. And it's better than most packaging supplied by high street brands. One thing's for certain though, it's nicer than that old plastic box they previously used to use. What's really good though is that it's an internal donut-like pouch for the watch, which is perfect for travelling. Inside is a signed 2-year warranty and a screwdriver for the links. As usual, let's have a look at the dimensions. Now the case is 39mm. The lug width is irrelevant because it's on an integrated bracelet, and the depth is 10.4mm, which includes a flat sapphire crystal with AR coating, and the lug to lug is 44mm. Now once adjusted to fit my 17cm wrist, it weighs in at about 128 grams. Now in my opinion, the watch wears possibly a little bit smaller than the dimensions indicate, which I think is a good thing. Now you can buy one of these with either the PT5000 or a Sellita SW200 movement inside, both of which are legal clones of the ETA 2824. The only difference is the PT5000 is made in Hong Kong and the Sellita in Switzerland. Now if the Sellita had just been another £50 or so, I may have been tempted to spend the extra. But in fact, it doubles the price of the watch, so I stuck with the PT5000. What is a bit disappointing is that the rotor is so plain and makes the movement look a bit unrefined. The PT5000 has been produced for about 10 years now, and although the early ones did have a few issues, I believe they're pretty much sorted now. It's a 4Hz high beat movement that ticks away at 28,800 beats per hour. It hacks and it hand winds, and it's got a 38-hour power reserve. If regulated correctly, they can be very accurate, mainly because they've got this excellent positional variance. A warning though, these movements, regardless of who produced them, don't like hand winding, so give them no more than a few winds and then shake them for a minute or so. I should also mention they can run a little bit fast for the first few days, so don't panic if yours does. They normally settle down quite quickly. In real life, this one's been running at just +1 second a day, which is pretty remarkable. But let's see what it looks like on a Timegrapher. And there we are. I'm not sure how much better things are meant to be. A fantastic beat error, a very good amplitude, and look at that rate. The 6mm signed octagonal crown screws down and operates the movement without issue. Engagement is just like a luxury watch and it's buttery smooth, something I really didn't expect. It should be noted that this version 2 has got some additional knurling, which makes it a lot easier to grip than the first version. Another thing that is different to the version 1 is the dial pattern, as this has got the hourglasses. It should be noted that this comes in a selection of colours, but on this occasion I chose to be a bit boring and I went for the grey, mainly because it fits into my collection. There is a minute track on the readout and a date window at the 3 o'clock. Below the 12 o'clock there's the company logo and Kronos below that, although I think just the logo would have been enough. Above the 6 o'clock it reads automatic with 100 metres of water resistance below that. The simple stick hands and indices are filled with BGW9, which is applied very generously and will last most of the night. Now here's a quick speeded up video of the degradation after 10 minutes. I think you're going to be impressed. case is well finished, with horizontal brushing on the sides and vertical brushing on the top. However, the sides of the 12-sided bezel are polished, as is a transition between the sides and the top of the case. Both the brushing and the polishing are excellent for a watch at this price. It's quite angular, but it makes the watch quite interesting. The back screws down and is of the exhibition variety. What's impressive is that they've used sapphire, which you don't get on most entry-level Swiss watches, and certainly not on a Seiko. Unfortunately, they haven't chosen to engrave anything around the sides, which isn't a big issue, but it does indicate cost saving. Once again, I do wish they decorated that rotor. So far so good. So what's the bracelet like? Well, it's bloody excellent if I'm honest, although the edges of the underside are a tad sharp. It tapers down to 16mm, it articulates beautifully, and it's reasonably comfortable. In actual fact, it's quite chunky, which helps out with the weight distribution of the watch. Getting a good fit is a piece of cake, because it's got well engineered screw pins for adjustment, and it's also supplied with 2 half links, which is another difference to the original version. Now, I'm not a great lover of butterfly clasp, but this one's very good, and those half links make sure it's not a problem. To be honest, I don't think a normal clasp really would have suited this watch anyway. Now, according to the listing, I was meant to get an additional custom-made leather strap as well, which unfortunately didn't arrive. However, I wouldn't have used it. Shame all the same though. So how much will one of these little crackers cost you? And this is ridiculous. With the PT5000 movement inside and on a bracelet, you can actually pick one of these up from AliExpress for £142, but strangely enough, it's a little bit more from their own site or Watch Dives. If you want a Solita movement, you can double that price, but frankly I wouldn't bother. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that with this specification and finish, the value for money is just absolutely crazy. So what do I think of the Kronos Skyline? Well, I presently own 2 other watches with integrated bracelets and textured dials, both Swiss made, and both costing a lot more. The Dorenzo DRZ02R and the Maurice Lacroix Acon, which is presently my favourite watch. In all honesty, other than the Swiss movements in both of those watches, the actual quality is pretty damn close. Sorry watch nerds, it's true. I predicted this would be the year of the original design Chinese factory brands, and this is a good example of why that may be the case, even though some people may not think this is particularly original. To be honest guys, I'm totally knocked off my feet with this one, and if you like the look of it, you'd be crazy not to buy one. The question is, will I be keeping it? And the answer is yes. Well, for the meantime anyway. So that brings me to the end of this review. If you've enjoyed it, click on the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.